People with disabilities in Arkansas are a large and frankly underserved voting bloc in this state, and it's important for them to be empowered to go out and exercise their rights and represent their own interests, because so much of what happens in local government and at the legislature in this state has a direct impact on their lives, and so they need to be empowered to use their voice to give their opinion on those issues. The majority of our voting rights work over the last couple of years has focused on physical accessibility at the polls, polling site surveys at polling places across the state where we go out, we run them through a survey that we've prepared, and we see how they measure up as far as accessibility goes. Then we take that information and contact the relevant county officials and let them know what problems we find, or in what ways they're doing good, and work with them to try to fix that and make accommodations so that all polling places are going to be accessible. Another part of what we do is handle calls coming in from clients when they have issues at the polls, issues with parking spaces or issues with rude poll workers, that sort of thing. That's another thing that we've assisted with in the past. Another big thing that we do is our outreach and education, where myself or someone else will go out to congregate care facilities or day treatment places, or really just anywhere where the people can be found, and talk to them about their rights and the voting process itself, how to get registered, how to vote in person, how to request an absentee ballot if need be, which was a big thing during this last election. And so it's largely that accessibility work and the outreach and education that's been keeping us busy on the voting front.
Legislative advocacy is extremely important for people with disabilities, and they're a tremendously underserved population, and yet they're a very large underserved population, and that results in a large underserved population having little or no input on the laws that impact their lives greatly. We have taken it on as a priority to really pay attention to this legislative session when it has become increasingly harder for people with disabilities, given the impact of the pandemic this year, to be present, to have face-to-face contact with their legislature, to go to committee meetings and talk about their stories. We thought that we would have a great impact being able to help tell their stories for them when it's dangerous for them to do so.
Another aspect of what we've been doing is tracking all the legislation as it's filed and flagging bills that are going to be relevant to the disability community, and working with other agencies within the state to kind of do our best strategically to get some of these issues in front of the legislators so that they realize how these issues are going to impact individuals with disabilities.
Lots of times the legislature might not know how this is going to impact that population. If they don't hear that something is a problem, it might be very well intentioned. And even so, it might have a awful impact on a person with a disability that they would have never intended and wouldn't have filed in the first place if they would have known it impacted them in that way. With our legislative efforts in the past several years, all we've done is play defense. And that's because lots of times they're the most pressing things, how somebody's going to be negatively impacted by a bill that a legislator might have no idea that they're going to be impacted in that way. We try to make sure that the legislators know that there are stories and that represent how people have been impacted, and those people, if they're able, would want their story to be told.
We do regular calls to action where we broadcast out on our social media and listservs and all the other avenues available to us when we do see a piece of legislation that's, is going to have consequences for the disability community. We'll try to keep them aware of that. We have all of the bills we're tracking available for view on our website, and we're kind of doing what we can in order to get these issues out in front of the disability community so that they can then contact their individual legislatures and tell their stories.
So the idea behind one of our main guiding principles, that of Olmsted, the Supreme Court case that talks about the importance of being part of a community, that people with disabilities deserve to be in mainstream community, that they should have the choice to be with non-disabled peers, work alongside non-disabled peers. That is a guiding star for us in our work, right? And so what better way for an individual to show that they are a part of that community than through their own legislative advocacy, through making their voice heard by voting, as we talk about all the time, by voting, which is the most direct form of self-advocacy, to talking to your legislators, to going to committee meetings, to telling them how that is going to affect you as a person with a disability.